So welcome everybody to this week's SQL and FHIR Analytics meeting. For an agenda, I don't have any specific items. I think let's walk through any of the action items. Pretty much might just be Nikolai and Gino. So I'm looking through them. So Nikolai, you had implement reference client. Maybe you have some updates on that today?
Yeah, I can show the demo, the progress.
Okay, great. All right, we'll talk about export operation, testing sandbox, test with ClickHouse. You can all bundle all that together. I didn't make any progress on Parquet on FHIR draft or the API parameters review sheet, which will be later. Skip over John's stuff. Gino, you had update logical model implementation. I think you said you were clearing out some other work for that.
Yes, although I'm going to put it off slightly longer regardless because Graham said he's changed away from logical models to using resources directly and just letting things externally define them. So I want to sync up with him and make sure that we're on the same page before I put the effort into doing the updates.
Yeah, last meeting he said he prefer type resource or kind resource instead of kind logical model. So it will be allowed to create structured with a height resource outside of FHIR.
Yep. So I want to make sure we're on the same page before I invest too much more, but I'm hoping to do that before the work group meeting as an example to work through there while we're discussing.
All right, sounds good. And we'll skip over Brian's task as well. So just a quick look over the tracking sheet. I have been chatting with a few folks who would be interested in taking on some of the work streams. I was hoping some of them might be on today, but potentially not. Particularly maybe some use case driven work. So hopefully we'll see some new faces in the next couple of weeks on that. And pretty much, I think we're still in flight in the same situation for most of the other ones, except for API. Does anybody else have anything? Oh, I do have one scheduling note. So there's some folks in Poland who I met recently who are developing a kind of app around some of the SQL and FHIR work. So I'm going to have them join next meeting. So next Tuesday, I'll have them join and have a little demo of the work they've done on top of some of the work we've done. So I think that'll be interesting. So just quick announcement on that. Anything else from the group for the agenda today or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, we scheduled SQL on FHIR report in Madrid for the working group meeting after Connected On. So I will report the progress. FHIR.
Oh, is that for, we're also putting together a birds of a feather session. Adam Culbertson, Nikolai are working on that. So we'll advertise that around. So get more people interested in that for Madrid. And then I know folks are getting ready for dev days later on. So you got some events to look forward to. Anything else from the group you want to put on the agenda? All right. Well, I'll hand it over to Nikolai.
Yeah, let me jump to the implementation. Okay, so first demo, and then we can discuss details. So I started doing mini user interface, which is a part of the server. So it just page which shows that you can go to capability. I will make some better visualization to highlight what specific operations and resource types and interactions should be. So I built like a simple grid of view definitions, and then you can go to the view definition. For now, I implemented the run operation because expert is much more sophisticated. So there is a progress on expert, but the run operation, so you can send the run operation, you can change the type of the output. For now, it's working. And yeah, so this is the run operation which run on top of specific view definition. So the URL for this operation is a view definition IDs /$run. And this is expected to be used for debugging. I started working on evaluate operation. I'm not sure that it is the same as a run. So the idea of evaluate operation that it's getting view definition as a resource, as a body. Potentially, we can make run polymorphic and run on resource type endpoint, let's say ViewDefinition/run. But then it's hard to describe an operation definition that you're getting resource or something else or something else. So I'm not sure, and this is a topic to discuss. What do you think? Should we introduce like evaluate operation which accepting as a body the view definition by themselves, or it's better to keep one operation which is called run, but which is smart about parameters, so it can understand where it's mounted on a resource type level or instance level, and understand what parameters are expected. What do you think, guys?
Didn't we have both in the draft API spec, Nikolai?
So we initially discussed it only run operation, and we were thinking that this is going to be one operation. But when I start writing, when I start writing operation definitions, for example, for the run operation, so here we say this is like an instance level operation. So essentially, we know which view we operate on. So we probably, I don't know, should we describe it in parameters or not? Maybe Gina can tell us. But then if we have it in scope, the view definition, then we only have to specify the format and maybe some extra parameters. And we, as we discussed later, so we return the binary, and the real respawn format will be defined by the format parameter. And maybe we should use underscore format to follow like FHIR convention. I don't know. So
you could make a case for both. I mean, we've seen implement in this style of API, that means there's state in view definition, right? So you post or create your view definition, and then you perform a run operation on it.
Yeah.
We've seen, and actually in our implementation, we've reused the JavaScript implementation initially just to get going, where we just load that up in a Docker environment, and we use essentially a stateless service. So that stateless service would not be considered in this case, would it?
Yeah, and this is the case for the evaluate operation when you're sending view definition in a body. So that's the difference. I don't know. So we can put it in one operation and overload it, or we can just create two operations for that.
I would probably lean towards two operations, just because I think many production servers aren't going to let people create their own view definitions.
Yep.
It's going to be an administrative function and or a developer function. And so being able to run specifically there instead of having the same operation and people are trying to post and getting errors and trying to figure out all those workflows, I think it's harder to describe that you have an operation that may or may not actually support including it. Yeah. So I like having them both.
Yeah, so that looks like a clean way. Otherwise, we need, I don't know, profile somehow this operation definition. Can we put some FHIR path invariance in operation definition or parameter? No? Because we're getting to the same problems as profiling. So it looks like we're slightly reinventing the profiling. For example, if I, as Gina suggested last time, we can say that we can point view by URL, we can point view by ID or something else. And then essentially we ideally should describe that at least one of these view definition references should be provided somehow, yeah? And this is becoming quite hard to describe that at least one, yeah, or one or another or both. And it's like profiling stuff. But I think we don't have a FHIR path in operation definition to like put invariance, no?
I don't think so.
Yeah, then let's keep it simple and just split into two operations, yeah? So then we will have like three operations, and I think we can use validate operation by FHIR. I don't know, because we discussed that, but this is a slightly different topic, yeah. Okay, so this is three operations I define it like value set, I showed it in the code system to describe formats. Maybe we should use some existing value set, but we're going to introduce Parquet and some strange formats. I know, is there official meme type values like code system we should refer, Gina?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can, it's in like capability statement has it and things like that. So it's MIME types.
I will take a look, yeah. but maybe we can keep it simple and define our own. I don't know. So let's see. So, but the value set is definitely going to be ours. Yeah, so we will list. It is extensible, so the implementers can add more formats if they want. But it's still, again, so because it's not fully functional profile, I don't know. Okay, I did the binding extensible, but if the real server will add more formats, how it should work, Gina, how it should present it. I can do binding, yes, here in a parameter. I can send it extensible, but when the client will discover real server, real implementation, and this server like plugging more formats, how it should be done.
For that, I think we're going to have the application feature IG stuff because we don't have any way of describing that today.
Okay, so then we probably maybe we can make binding example, for example, like this.
Yeah. Yeah, we should also, and I'll actually file that ticket right now. We need to add additional binding the same to operation definition the same way we have it in.
So if there will be additional binding, so then inside these bindings, the implementer can say additional.
Yep. Yeah, it's called additional, and then there's a separate value set thing that can starter set, UI set, maximal, minimal, random things like that. So we can then put specific ones that they add.
An additional binding is an array, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So I will file that ticket as we are talking because there is zero chance I will remember later.
Okay, maybe with additional bindings we can do this. But it's again the question about what versions of FHIR we're going to support. It's going to be in R6, an extension for cross-version extension for the oldest versions.
Yep.
And Steve, which version are you implementing? Or are you implementing like multiple, any version?
R4, but where some newer software is doing all the versions. But I mean, most immediately R4.
Okay, so then we probably can use extension for that if additional binding will be provided. I will create topic in GitHub to discuss it in more details. Yeah, so that's, I think that the main progress. I will push implementation today, and anybody who interested can play with it. And I can make user interface that people can choose the server and send these operations to the different servers. By default, they will use the JavaScript implementation, but whenever any other implementation will be ready, so we can choose different servers. Yeah. So I did some code cleanup, but it's still very straightforward implementation. So it's file-based, or small, like each operation in separate file. So the basic FHIR CRUD operations are defined here. So if anybody wants to contribute or like have questions about the code base, you're welcome to ask it in the Zulip chat. And I think we're getting closer. And this UI could be considered as some kind of reference client, but I will write the code for the reference client as well. It's a separate thing. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So introducing evaluate operation. Then we have to discuss the validation and all this stuff and the export and the progress. So it's I'm working on an export operation, but this is like most complicated operation. For the export, I did the following. So I start describing output, right? Like all possible output parameters run in this specific operation. And we can say that when you're polling for the status, you will get the same response, like same parameters response. So we can like profile what's going to be the response for the state polling operation and for the final response, because it is not operation. Yes, so you're sending some URL, and looks like this is a good hack and trick to describe what people expecting from the status operation and from the like result like polling result URL and status URL. And later we can move all these definitions to the spec and probably generate nice pages for implementation guide. Okay, that's it from my side. Maybe any questions about that?
Oh, looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good, Nikolai.
And I really enjoy how the cursor writing code for me. I just pressing tap, and sometimes just pushing to the right direction. It's really smart. So it is doing like 60% what I'm expecting, like 70%. Really much more than I was expecting.
Which LLM are you using, Nikolai? What backend LLM you're using there?
It's a default cursor plus Claude. I think I prefer Claude for programming, so I played with a bunch of them. But I don't know what's working for the autocomplete in cursor. I think it's some special model which is trying to autocomplete. I don't understand FHIR quite well, so when I'm like writing all these operation definitions, like in 60-70%, it is right what how it should be.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're doing some exploration about that as well.
To be honest, this is a little bit scaring for me.
Yeah. I'll say in software, I found that the subtle bugs are really problematic. That it's like it'll give you something that looks right, runs right, and then downstream you're like, hey, wait a minute, these values are all wrong. And then you go and look and it has, inverted properties or something like that that are really a pain in the neck to find. So
yeah, you have to
here for at least another year.
Yeah, you have to track what he's doing, but it understands quite well. Let's say I'm using Tailwind for CSS. I'm using HTMX, so it's really understand what I mean. And when I'm printing, let's say the form for HTMX, it like suggests HX parameters the right way. It suggests very smart Tailwind classes for errors. It says like text red 500. So I'm really impressed. So it is a smart piece of software. Okay, so that's sorry for emotional.
Yeah, that's great. No, this looks good, and I think you have clear next steps in working on the client and working on the UI side and the last operation. But yeah, it's great. I don't know if there's much else for us to discuss this week. Some of the other folks will probably have some updates next week, and hopefully we'll get some new faces to show some of their work. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has anything else they want to discuss.
Yeah, maybe with Steve. So Steve, whenever you're ready to start testing the API, so we can like just chat and discuss it, and I can integrate this reference client with your runtime.
Yeah, sure. We'll work in the direction of implementing this API. We have right now sort of an unreleased initial internal version of code that does all these functions. What we'd like to do is just conform to this. So we're probably a couple weeks away from starting some of that work, but we'll move in that direction.
And if you guys on JavaScript for your first implementation, maybe you can take a look out and start like contributing and discussing.
Yeah, we have a combination. There's a bunch of stuff in ours. It's a combination of JavaScript, Java, and also Rust in certain parts of the stack. So what we've done is initially just use the JavaScript, the open source JavaScript implementation, which you guys did, right?
Yeah, Josh started, I refactored.
Josh did it? Okay. So we've been using that just as a test solution, and we might stick with it for a while. Ultimately, we wanted to do our, roll our own version, implementation of that. So we're working in that direction.
And that's maybe the goal for dev days. So if we can make the demo, I will definitely make it from 8box side. So we will have implementation, your implementation, and maybe John will be ready with a puzzling implementation. I don't think it will take too much. When we stabilize API, it should be quite trivial to implement.
Yeah.
Maybe Bashir.
I'm not planning on attending dev days. What is that in June again?
Yeah, it is in June, but I can show the demo, and maybe Arjun can show the demo for all of us. So.
Sure.
Yeah, we can sort that out. Yeah, if you Steve, if you guys get ready, and then we could do recording, we could do something like that.
We'll see how much progress we can make by June, and I'd be happy for you to, if I don't attend, and I wasn't planning on attending, but Amsterdam would be nice. If I don't attend, I'll you can certainly speak on our behalf.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Bashir, what do you think about the API? Are you going to implement it in your platform?
So if I understand correctly, what you're doing is more applicable to like a FHIR server. Is that correct?
I think that like even ETL pipelines can expose this API. I don't know how technically, but essentially this is, so we're talking about like export operation, which is asynchronous. Yes. So there could be some teeny control API on top of ETL pipelines, which can accept this stuff and start running pipelines. So maybe
that's actually To be honest, I never thought about it that from that perspective. I mean, we do have a tiny API, which is just for like a controller API, which says that, run the pipeline, do an incremental run and things like that. But I guess you are right. I mean, we can also feed the view.
Yeah.
Then get the results, right? So right now it just says that recreate views, and the views are read from somewhere on the disk, for example.
And that still can be done with API because we split it in several parts. First part is a discovery. You should provide the capability statement and say which operation, like, are you read-only hard-coded view definitions, or like what operations? If it's you dynamically can post views, or do you support all this evaluate run operation? Then the next step of introspection is you go and getting list of view definitions. And for example, if your view definitions are static, at least you can serve, let's say, I'm serving these view definitions for you. And then people can run export operation or this debug operation like run and evaluate getting view definition as a body, and it's useful for the debugging. And I think we have this visual view definition builder, and if everybody will support this API, so we can connect the view definition builder, open source builder, to different implementations, so people can use view definition builder, design views, and then run it and test it and debug it using different engines.
Yeah, this is actually a great point. I mean, and thanks for bringing that up, because like I said, because we don't have we don't have a capability as they don't provide like a FHIR server, but all that what you are saying makes sense. I mean, we can have that. We can have view discovery. Actually, we do have like a view editor as well, like a view definition editor, which is very, very primitive. It's just basically just understand JSON. So if we can integrate, what you have also and replace it, then that would be great as well. So yeah. I'll definitely look into it.
Okay. And are you going to Dev Days, Bashir?
Yes, I am actually going to Dev Days. I don't know if we discussed. I think I mentioned it in one of the past meetings. I have a presentation also for SQL. I mean, related to SQL and FHIR, which is basically converting natural language queries to SQL on basically SQL on FHIR basically. So that's the idea. I also have a talk for our gateway. So yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, cool.
Great. Yeah, terrific. No, that sounds good, and good to hear some connections being made from this API work that we've been doing to your work this year. So yeah, good stuff. Good to see, I'll be interested to see how that progresses. All right. Anything else for today? We can make it a short one.
I had a quick question for Gino. Gino, last week you mentioned some ongoing work for the cross-version, a lot of data work for cross-version stuff. Where can I read up on that and sort of track the progress of all that work?
I am working on a post right now.
Oh, all right. Okay. Where is it going to be posted?
Let's see. The first place that I have to post things are, where is the Yens thread? Trying to find. There you go. This thread in Zulip is the continual prod Jano thread on cross-version extension status. So that is the first place where I will put the updates. I am trying very hard to make sure I can post it today so that it's still April 1st, in the hopes that everyone thinks I'm joking. So yeah, right now I'm documenting the rest of the process, and I have, oops, where's that post? So the first this is the content to start reviewing, and so it has where is this? Value set comparisons. There's 1,800 value set comparisons that comprise 19,500 concept comparisons, and then there are 1,600 structure comparisons that cover 51,000 element comparisons. And so this goes through and has all of the pre-done stuff with all the properties that we know about and everything else. And I need to just double check a couple more things and then start posting, and then we just review, and whenever review's done, we'll have the packages.
Okay. So this handles all the value set data issues. So this in combination with FHIR mapping language, do you think that is a sufficient, I guess, solution for or no?
So it's fun. I spent a lot of time on this, and Brian possibly has taken over a lot of that work now. But the problem, it's a mess. I wish FHIR mapping language didn't exist at this point. I would much rather just write TypeScript code that did the conversion, and everyone who wants it in a different language can port the code and be done with it. A lot of the maps are incredibly hard to describe. The cross-version extension is nice because we don't actually care how the mapping happens. We just have to care if it's representable or not. But you have things like, here's an element, it's a string, it got moved into a backbone element, and 3 properties that were siblings are included in that new backbone element, but 2 aren't. So you have all these, I don't know how to describe that in something like FML, but it is what we did, apparently. And so things like that, I'm not worried about updating the FML for. And so we'll just know that it does map or doesn't map. And I read the FML and ingest it and do all that reconciliation to do the mappings across renames and all that kind of stuff. But right now, I'm not updating the FML. Brian hopes that he can. So he wants to go through and take, once I have the cross-version packages done, he wants to update the source FMLs to add or ingest values from the cross-version extensions when those happen, when those are present. I'm curious to see if it'll work or not.
What he'll probably have to do is enhance FML to handle these other non-expressible mappings.
Yeah, and we've been working on that because we've been updating the definitions and defining the functions we need and doing all that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe that's why I don't know. I'm hoping that it can, just because that would be nice that it's there, but I don't know if that's actually possible or not. And I will note that we are not going for 100% coverage. We're going, I'm trying to get as close as I can to that, but there are things like, what is it? Bundle has another resource type element that was added to it, bundle.issues or something like that has operation outcomes in it. There's no way to represent a resource in cross-version extensions because you can't have a resource in an extension value. And so things like that, there's just nothing we can do. And so it's just like, there's going to be limitations like that, and we run into them, and I'm trying to document them as I go. But there will be edges that just aren't representable.
So the magic will not happen,
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it because I'm like, well, I could convert it into a basic, even though that type exists, and use extensions to represent everything, or do silly things like that. And I'm like,
yeah, there's still some conversions which depends on semantic of data, which is impossible to express.
Yes, at the end of the day, there are a lot of things like that we can put, that there's the option, but we can't tell you which one is right. So one of my favorites is for, what is that? Encounter
status, which we discussed.
Encounter status, and I'm trying to find where I have one of those open.
Guys split finished into 2 different types and removed finished or completed, I don't know.
Yeah, so if let's see if this is in a working state right this second.
And why, Steve, are you interested in it? You want to support?
I'm just curious where this is going. I mean, everybody is on largely R4. We have R5, R6.
I think people will skip R5 and jump to R6.
Yeah.
High predictions.
Yeah, I agree. How to get there is a question.
And R5 breaks so much stuff so that they're able to use R5 because 6 is coming.
So when we look at the encounter state, and that maps to encounter status, R4, R4B, and R5. But you have these types of things where you say plan to planned, arrive to planned, finish to discharged, finish to completed. I can tell you that these maps exist. I don't know which one you want. That one I can't map for you. So if you have something in R4 that's finished and you try to map it into R5, someone has to pick whether it's discharged or completed.
What the difference? Completed.
Yeah, so I don't know which one you're going to want in that scenario. So there has to be
hospital, or what means completed, or it's died. I don't know.
Yeah, and so the same thing here, going backwards. If you're starting in 5 or 6, I haven't added the 6 stuff here. When you add that, going from planned back to planned or arrived, I don't know. Now, some of that you can do because there's actually a separate set of relationships in encounter state, or in the encounter resource for encounter, I don't remember what they added, encounter class or something like that in R6. they added a new element, which or category or whatever, which takes over some of these, and that's why this changed like how triaged and stuff like that work, is because those got moved into a combination of the two elements. Again, in theory, we can write code to do that. I don't know how to write the FML to do that. I mean, in theory, you just start enumerating them and put them as switches. So you can do like, when you have this type of encounter, you switch, use discharged instead of completed if it was an inpatient or different things like that. So, if it's Turing complete, we should be able to express it. I'm not thrilled to do so.
Well, this is a hard work. Thank you, Gina, for doing that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna present it in Madrid, yeah? So we will see the.
Yes. So that's why I'm gonna post all this stuff as soon as I finish the documentation I have here. And I had one more thing I need to check to make sure that the comparison is doing correctly, which I thought I'd done and forgot to. So I'm gonna do that next. And then I'll post this to start doing review. And once we have everything signed off on, it's nice there's just a SQLite database. So I'll just update that as we sign off on them. And then as soon as it's signed off, we just generate the packages and then we're golden.
Great. Thanks.
And if you have some time, I can announce the new package registry we are working on, because
Yes,
non-simplifier.
definitely. That's a great one for the Monday night discussions as well, Nikolai.
Yeah.
That's another great topic there. The late night.
I can show quickly. So this getig.org. For now, it's a mirror of Graham's package 2. What's specific about this? Here's the search for, let's say, US core. You can search for US core. You can go to US core. You can see all the versions. You can see that it like suggests how to use npm install. As well, we serving all canonicals in nd.json file. Sometimes it's much easier to use. What's important, this stuff completely built on top of Google storage bucket. So no rate limits. Guys, you can pull and get packages because it's open source. So I pushed like 80% of logic to the bucket. So the bucket is serving like packages and like project, like package JSONs stuff. So you can like bomb it, like get all the data. So it works quite nice as well. Here's the logs, how it's synced with the Graham's server to getting new packages. And what's another nice stuff, all the canonicals are loaded into Postgres and you can search, let's say encounter status, and if you say value, so it's a prefix search, and you can see like all the canonicals. You can put the whole URL here, for example, and you see how much encounter statuses do we have.
Nice.
All of this stuff, and you can jump and see just JSON body of it. So
Is simplifier going away or?
no, it's complement to simplifier. We discussed
okay.
So we have a problem with simplifier. They have a rate limits because they could not handle heavy load. That's why I designed everything on top of Google Bucket, and probably we will discuss with Ward. Maybe we will make integration so the simplifier maybe will start serving at least this production npm stuff through our bucket.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's So, but
Nice.
the progress as well. So we're analyzing for some problems when the packages like have unsatisfied dependencies. And what's nice, because for example, I wasn't able to install US Core 8 ballot from Simplifier because it missed VSAC, because VSAC is too big for them. And I wasn't able to do that with the Graham server because Graham server doesn't support properly npm API. So if I say like npm install US Core, let's say, so I go to US Core and if I say this with the simplifier or with the package 2, it doesn't work. So it doesn't resolve dependencies. And the FHIR guys doesn't serve dependencies as well because I don't know why. They picked npm registry API, but none of them implemented it properly. So here it's implemented properly. So if you copy this and go, let's say here, it's already here, and make this operation, or maybe let me show how it works internally. So you see it's getting all dependencies, finally. That's what I want. And if you say R, so you see all of them. And it took, you saw how fast it was, yes, because it's GCP bucket, so no any rate limits and other stuff. So
Nice.
So that
And this means I don't have to finish FPM.
Yeah.
I had my spare time on NPM server compatible thing do exactly that. So very glad that you did it.
Yeah. So guys, welcome. Try to test. So it's get-ig.org and no HTTPS yet, and search. Yeah, working through the server and some nice UI. So I think we will put more statistical stuff because this is like database. Gina, you would love to have at the beginning. So because like all packages loaded and you can analyze it. For now it's Postgres, but we're serving ND JSON and potentially, I don't know, DuckDB can be used or like even other, because it's ND JSON files, so much easier to analyze. Maybe we will build some useful views on top of it and publish it.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff. I don't know why we didn't just do NPM with an index service next to it if that's what we needed, but that's just me.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else, yeah, we'll give you 15 minutes back. So good to see you guys.
You
Thanks,
as well.
guys.
Cheers.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.